1 second. All right, today is June 21st. My name is Sam Redmond, and I'm in Stockton, California with Warren G. Haynes.
Gaines.
G-A-I.
Warren Gamelia Harding Gaines.
Gamelia Harding.
Gaines. I was named after Warren G. Harding.
All right, that's great. I'd like to ask you about that in a moment.
Okay.
Today is June 21st, and we're in Stockton, California. At first, I've asked you to state your name, but will you tell me where and when you were born?
I was born in Goodnight, Oklahoma, which is 5 miles from Langston University, on the farm, my daddy's farm, in 1920.
1920.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about who your parents were and what they were like?
Well, I can tell you about my parents. What I know in my research, I've learned who my parents were. Very few people know who their parents are.
In terms of actually knowing...
I know my parents.
Can you tell me
My parents, my father was born in 1867 in Waco, Texas. He was the son of an immigrant Jewish German from Germany. I know my father, but I don't know my grandfather. My grandfather was a slaveholder. His name was Heinrich Müller. His son was my father, Heinrich Müller. He had 2 children. The original German had 2 children. Aunt Fanny and my papa was named Henry Walter. But his real name was Heinrich Müller. He was a German immigrant slaveholder, which is a lot of them here that you don't even know. They don't even tell you that they were Jewish.
So was he farming? Did he have a homestead?
He had 5,000 acres of land.
5,000 acres. That's pretty amazing.
Well, that land in Texas was nothing at that time. But it's a very unique story. It's hard to explain. And I had to do a lot of research to explain it. Now I'm going to tell you what happened. My father's mother and father were slaveholders. They had a vast amount of land. They loved to ride horses. At the age of 2 years old or 3, they were riding, and the horse reared up and killed Heinrich Müller the first wife that left him with 2 kids, Aunt Fanny and my dad, Henry Walter. What happened was, I'm going pretty fast through the story. What happened was, they left him with those 2 kids, and he was home taking care of his vast cattle and so forth. But you won't find this in the history, because a lot of this is blotted out. What I know and did research and went down there and found out about it by research. Then I found out some things. Oh, they're going to just say, oh, you're lying and all this stuff. And I didn't understand it until later on in my life.
So when you were growing up, I'd like to get just a feel of when you were a kid. This sort of history wasn't really talked about in this way.
I'm telling you about my history, what my daddy told me.
Okay.
Okay. So what happened was, the slave woman by the name of Aunt Hannah raised these 2 kids. You understand?
Sure.
Because she was a housekeeper, which the slave had was running the household. She ran the house until this man, Heinrich Müller, got married again. You understand?
Yes.
He married an American white woman. Okay? She was taking care of these kids, taking them back to the slave quarters at night with her. And she'd be up there with him. After she got married, she'd take them down. This woman didn't like these 2 little kids because she started having children of her own, which she had 4 kids. four boys. Okay? Pretty soon, Papa tells me that he stayed in the slave quarters and grew up, he and his sister, with these slaves. Okay? The ex-slaves, because this was 1867 when he was born. You see, but slavery was really going on because they had no place to go. The slaves had no place to go. So Papa stayed there until he was about 14 years old. You wouldn't understand? But he stayed in the slave quarters and was raised with the slaves, with the ex-slaves.
Often what people are taught in U.S. history textbooks is that this was then an era of sharecropping in the South. But it sounds like very much a continuation of the slavery system in reality for these actors.
They didn't have anywhere to go. You understand? This is on my father's side. Now later on I'll tell you how I understood it after I got to be older. My father was German Jewish. You understand?
Yes, yeah. That's...
Okay, now we'll stop right there.
Okay.
Because my dad, when you take a look at his picture, you can tell he doesn't look like me. I look like him a lot, but he's a little small German, black hair, kind of almost blue eyes.
Wow.
You understand? I know who I am. My Aunt Fanny had long blonde hair, and they both married African Americans. You understand? And people do not understand the South if you've never lived there. If you went on a slave plantation in the South after slavery or during slavery, you see no more mulattoes there than you see today. Because the white man mixed with the slave women, it was nothing. He had slaves, he had babies in both places. His children had babies there.
And that was just accepted as a part of life.
That is accepted among, but they don't like to talk about this. And when you start running your history, you will find this. Do you realize that 52,000 blacks passed into the white neighborhood? I mean, in there, changed their identity. When you mention Warren G. Harding,
Yes.
Look up his history. He's black. Have you ever known that before?
He was one of the people that passed as a white person.
I say, did you ever look up his history?
I didn't know that about him.
Look it up, and
really
you will find, and that's where I got the name Warren G. Harding Gaines. My daddy named me after Warren G. Harding.
Wow.
Now, when you look it up, they're going to deny this. There are a lot of them going to deny. And there's one movie that you can't find it. The View from Pompey's Hill. The View from Pompey is a movie that was made about guys that passed over. And another one is, let me think of it right now. I'll take, just movie just made. It's a lot of whites that think that, look at Bill Clinton. He's nothing but a big-nosed mulatto black guy that passed over. Read his life story and you'll find out who he is. But when you pass over, a lot of guys don't want to accept it. But now it's a little bit different. You understand?
Right. Tell me.
Now I'm going to tell you about my mother.
That's great.
Tell you about my mother. My mother was born in 1882. She was the daughter of a slave, which near as they can figure. My grandfather was born on the slave side. On the African American side, he was born around in the 1840s as a slave, and he was beaten and done everything to it. He was an Ashanti. Now, the reason I know he's an Ashanti, there is a tribal mark on the Ashantis that my mother didn't have it, but her auntie had it. My grandfather had it. You understand? My father's sister. Okay? I didn't get a chance to see her, but my older brother and sister saw her, see? Okay? She had the tribal mark under her left eye. Okay? It was a half moon turned upside. The female was upside with the moon like receiving. And the top side on the right cheek of the male was down like this. You understand? I know who I am, but you can't tell me who I am because you're not writing the history for me. I have to find out for myself. Europeans don't write history about African Americans or either Native Americans. They write the history about Europeans, the way that they see it. When Columbus come in and say he discovered America, how in the hell could he discover a planet with already 25 million people in this? You understand?
Right.
History is in the eyes of the old beholder who writes it.
Tell me then about how
Now,
they
wait a minute.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll tell you how they met. My father, when he was 18, 20, he moved into Waco. He started. Now, Papa learned how to be a carpenter. How did he learn how to be a carpenter? The guy that built all the furniture and all the equipment and stuff for the plantation, the Moolah plantation, was black. Okay? He took my dad and taught him all of this. And Papa took his name, the Gaines. He named himself. This guy named himself. He was married to the lady, Aunt Hannah, who was a slave woman that raised the kids. But you see, they stayed there until my dad got to be about 18 years old, and he got out on his own. Okay? Now, the reason he got out on his own, he was about 23 years old when Heinrich Müller passed away. Heinrich Müller left my father and my auntie, Aunt Hannah, Aunt Fanny, 1,900 acres of land apiece when he passed away. He had 4 kids. And my brother got a chance to meet some of his uncles. They were white. And they told him, I said, Walter wanted, Henry wanted to be a nigger, let him be a nigger. The woman had kicked him out into where the slave woman raised him, and that's where he stayed. Papa took his land and he sold it. Now I'm gonna get ahead of my story. And Aunt Fanny married a guy in Waco, Texas. And if you go there now and search the records, you'll find she was long. But you see, here's what happens. When you marry in the South, if you marry a little light-skinned person, all they have to do is say, "Oh, I'm a black." And now, when I was in the service, we were on the bus in New Orleans. No, in New Orleans, out from New Orleans rather, and we got on the bus. You know, the segregated blacks sit in the back and come up and they move a sign up and says. So when we got on the bus, a bunch of guys on there from New York and every place, and the bus driver said, "Hey, you guys, you have to sit back there." They move a sign. So they said, "We can't sit back there. There are all white people back there." Those are mulattoes. We just laugh. You understand that? Because this is the way of the South. But here's one thing I cannot understand about America. Why is it they do not accept the real history in this country? They'll tell you about, listen to the radio. We built this country. We didn't build shit. The 13 original colleges were built by slaves. The White House was built by slaves. My sister was teaching at Howard University, and she said, she says, come to Washington, said. I said, I don't want to go to Washington. She said, "Oh, come on up here. You can see a lot of things." I said, "I'll go." She said, "I'm going to take you by the White House." I said, "For what?" I said, "How in the hell I want to go see a White House that slaves built, put the dome up there, they don't know how they got it up there. And you tell me to look at this building, they don't tell you it was built by slave labor, do they?"
Right, yeah. No, they don't.
Okay, well, let's...
No, so then how did your parents meet?
Here's what I'm going to tell you.
Great.
Okay, my dad got married to a mulatto woman. Her name was Lily Basham. She was half-breed. I was a slave. Probably the daddy was a slave owner. He met her and he married and moved to Oklahoma. Just maybe 8 or 9 years after the running of 1889, he moved in Oklahoma and bought 160 acres of land. Okay, he built his house there. He built the house there, and he owned the land. It's 114 years old. We still own it. I still own my land in Oklahoma. One thing about telling people now, if you get you some dirt, don't sell it. You know they're not making no more dirt. That's the reason I bought this 5 acres 40 years ago. I live in the country. Okay. My mother's father got in his wagon, these were all wagon days, and drove to Oklahoma with his 13 children and settled in Chandler, Oklahoma. He was a very mean man because he had been beaten and everything else. But he won't move there because he wanted his kids to go to school. There's one thing about people that don't understand. African Americans has always clamored for education because they were denied it to read and write and so forth. They're very egotistical about getting an education. And what I can't understand now, what has happened to the whole America? My mother wanted an education so bad, she had raised 7 children, plus the 3 that my dad had when we first met her. I had a 9th grade class with my mother, and she was 51 years old at that time. And they asked me, say, aren't you ashamed? I said, I'm not ashamed of my mother because she wanted an education. You understand? So it's very hard to understand if you're not an African American who is searching for who you are and which. That's the reason I can express myself so well. I know who I am. The average person don't know. Do you know who you are? Do you know who your great-grandparents were?
Not the way you do.
Huh?
Not the way you do.
Oh, well.
Well, so then tell me then, so
they met. My mother, well now I'm going right down.
Yep.
My mother was her parents were not educated. And when they said hobo, they said they're hobos. They don't know what hobo really come from. At that time in Oklahoma, they didn't have equipment like we have today. These people would get in bands and go chop cotton and pick cotton for the farmers in Oklahoma that needed help. And they would put their hoes on their shoulder and go chop the cotton. You understand? My dad had this 160 acres of land. Now listen. He had the 3 kids, Johnny Mae, Marcella, and Stella, his 3 girls. My mother was in this group, about 15 guys, was chopping the cotton on my daddy's ranch farm. You understand? So he picked her out because she was very neat in doing this work. And he brought her to the house and says, would you take care of my kids while I oversee the ranch, the farm? He says, sure. They got together and we started talking, and he said, well, I like you. I think I want to marry you. He wanted to have sex with her then. She said, no. I'm 23 years old. I don't have sex with no man until we're married. Papa married her, and 9 months and 12 days after they were married, they had my sister Letha.
okay.
We already had 3 kids. So she raised those 3 kids. Now we're 5 miles from Langston University. My dad believed in education because he had had an 8th grade education in Texas. Now listen, he had the blue-black Speller, which was a book about that thick. It had everything in it. History, English. It's just one book. Okay? Now my dad wanted education so bad for his children that he sent them to a Catholic school. It was about 3 miles away from where we were. My two older sisters, my older sister and brother, they got a Catholic education. And now, when Papa moved there and bought that land, he started farming. And 60% of the land there was owned around him was owned by African Americans, owned by blacks. And there was some Germans by the name of Wien that lived had a farm, 160 acres, next to ours where it was joined. My brother would hunt with those wean boys, and they were just like brothers. You understand?
So even though the schools were segregated, they
Seg-
would
oh,
hunt together.
Yeah, they're all. Listen, what makes segregation is a few people that are poor and don't understand, and they want to keep. The white man is smart. He uses the old English rule: divide and conquer. If you can keep two people fighting against each other, you have them. That's it.
So that you see as the Jim Crow structure that was set up was so powerful there because of that dividing mentality.
Absolutely, that is the whole problem. If America would just face up to the fact of what happened to the two most important people in the United States, what we call United States, is the African American and the Native American. Couldn't you feature, approximately, they make a rough figure, say maybe from 18 to 25 million Indians here in this country. Why is it we only have less than 5 million now? Huh? Something happened. Why don't you just tell the truth? They exterminated them.
Right.
So I can't dwell on that because, but these are absolutely facts I'm telling you.
But in your family's experience, even though they were next to some German families, they would still hunt together or do certain things together.
Hey, look, I'll tell you. Well, I'll skip a little bit. In 1934, in 1954, I went to Oklahoma. My brother and I. We had some oil wells on our place there in Oklahoma. We went there to see about it. He said, I think I'll go and see about those Ween boys. I said, the Ween boys? He said, yeah, you know the Weens that used to live right next farm to us? I said, yeah. He said, oh, Charlie said, I want to go over and see him. I said, how in the hell are we going to go see him, man? I don't know where those people live. He said, well, I'm going to the post office, and found out where the rural address was. And so it was funny. He found out where they were. Here come this guy. Now, they had a lot of hunting dogs, old, her teeth out and everything. They were Germans. He was old. He was getting old. They were up in their 50s. So he said, man, there's the mailbox. I think I'll stop by and holler at him. I said, okay. He said, now here comes a guy humpback, and the guy walked. Walter, is that you? They ran out and hugged each other, and man, they started talking, and damn old dogs all around. Now this is, they did everything but kiss. Then he brought out that jug, and they started drinking that moonshine out. Got drunk. I had put him in the car. I said, now that's how close they were. You understand? And those Germans lived all around. There's a funny thing about those German people. They weren't very prejudiced. This is a fact. Now, so far as the school you mentioned, the school, okay, I was raised in the country. My daddy had 7 kids by my mother. 4 boys and 3 girls.
And where were you in the...
I was living in the country.
Okay.
I was just born. I can go back to the time I was 5. I can remember this very well. Now, you didn't go to school until you started in the 1st grade. We didn't start having no kindergarten. We learned to read and write at home. They were taught there by your mother and father. They would teach you this. Okay. I had to walk 1.25 miles to school. Now, I'm living in the country, and we had timber wolves at that time. And I've seen the wolves. I'd be out there looking at you, and we go to school right down the road. And I was the only kid there, my mentor and my sister and I. But as I grew older, they moved to Langston. My mother sent my 2 sisters was going to school there, high school there in Langston. We went to high school on a college campus because the segregated school was there, and it had, they had a high school there and a college, but the high school and the grammar school up there was used to train teachers. You understand? It was all on one campus. There wasn't but one black school in Oklahoma, and that was Lincoln University. I went to high school on a college campus and grade school on a college campus because that's where the teachers had to practice on us. You understand? So that's where the education come in. My father always wanted us to have, and my mother wanted us to get an education. So if you will follow me very closely, education is a prerequisite that all people should have. And I believe in education. And my father sent all those kids to school. Now my 4 sisters all become teachers. I had one sister that graduated from Boston Conservatory of Music. And I have one sister, my older sister, next to my older sister, which was my father's first kid. She graduated from Kansas, KU, because she went to high school on the Langston campus, but Papa didn't want her to go to a segregated school. So he sent her to, but she come back and taught in Langston and in Luther, okay? Luther, Oklahoma, you understand? So when I become old enough to go to high school, I went to high school right there on the campus. Now I'm taking you right on up.
So something happened there in the midst is that in 1929, something that would have seemed...
That's what happened. Here's what happened to me.
Okay, great.
In 1928, I was 8 years old, to about 9. The Depression started. My daddy had 9,000 cash dollars, cash money. These guys were jumping out of the windows and killing themselves. You understand? And what's the name? My daddy hung on for about 2 years. The first time I had seen him cry, he had to sell all his stock. We had 40 hellers. You couldn't sell it. You couldn't give it away. Then the Depression set in. 1932 and 1933. My sister was just getting ready to graduate from college, Fanny. She was named after my Aunt Fanny. Okay. She got married. Okay. My other sister, my brother Vern, they was in up there on the campus at Langston. My dad built a house in Langston, bought some property in the little town, a black town. Now this is one thing about me. I'm a very unique person. I was raised in an all-black town. There are 52 black towns in Oklahoma. You never heard of that before, huh?
No.
See, they don't tell you the history.
I was wondering, can we step back to there in the 1920s in Tulsa? There were a number of riots.
Absolutely, I'll tell you about the riot. About the riot. I was born in 1920. This is in 1921, and they've told it to me several times. The blacks got in wagons, got their shotguns, and they got everything, and were going to Tulsa to get into the riot. My daddy was getting ready to go too. You understand? Now, the blacks had 39 blocks of black businesses. This is not in your history book. They won't tell you nothing about it. It was called the Black Wall Street. Okay? My 2 uncles, OD and RD, on my mother's side, were killed in that riot. They're twins. They were volunteered to go there to fight. They fought. They went over, they burned 36 square blocks of black businesses. And you know how they burned them? Aerial bombs. You won't find it in your history books, but what happened was they sent to Oklahoma City and got some Piper Cubs and flew over the black neighborhood and dropped Molotov cocktails and set the whole place on fire. It's in the books. Now, what you have to understand is they don't tell the truth. They will not tell you. Now, Oklahoma sued. You can cut it off when you...
No, that's fine.
Oklahoma sued, but now they wanted to give them some back pay for their homes and things. And this guy settled, say, well, you give them some scholarships instead of giving them some money. You understand? And there's a lot of black businesses destroyed. I mean, 39. What happened in Tulsa? People come up from Greenwood, Mississippi, from Texas, from all these places in Oklahoma, because Oklahoma was a free state. Oklahoma didn't become a state until 1980.
So why...
That was a territory state.
Other than there being all of those businesses there, why did that become such a major flashpoint for the broader black community? What possessed, say, your uncles to go to get to travel there?
It was freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom. People from Tennessee, from McCabe, come from Tennessee. All these people come in and they start setting up black towns. See, Oklahoma was one of the first states that was supposed to become a black state.
Hold on 1 second.
Hold.
Let me just make sure because you're hooked up.
Wait, I just gave you a little small inkling of my background, of my history. I won't go into too many details.
Now tell me about, from your perspective, the effects of the Great Depression. You talked a little bit about how that affected your father. When you were a young boy, could you see these things happen?
I couldn't. Being like I told you, I was reared as a middle class up until the Depression. We had buggies, horses. We had all of this, everything in the middle class. We had a Model T Ford. My daddy bought a new Model T Ford in 1925, paid cash for it.
Which was a big thing.
Big thing. Yeah. We lived good. We had everything. When I can remember, excuse me, I remember when I was about 7, I guess it was. My dad, we'd go to church, and we would sit in the back, my sister and my brother and I, my other 2 kids were older, and they would be sitting up in the buggy. Papa would be driving the 2 white horses, and we'd sit there. Beautiful, you know what I'm saying? Come home, get some ice from wherever the little store was, a black store up. Smith had a black store up there. Get ice, come home and make ice cream, homemade ice cream. We had an orchard. We had an orchard with everything in it. We lived good in the country. I love the country. But you see, no cars, very few cars, rural, everything. I grew up in this environment. But when I got to go into high school, when I was 13 years old, the Depression hit. It's 33 years. I'm really seeing it hard. I got into the Depression. I went to 14 and 15. It really was hitting me. I didn't have clothes to wear. No shoes. But we still had the farm, and we had a big lot in town. How did we live in town? It's a rural town. We had almost an acre of ground in town with a house on it. We had a cow there. I milked the cow. Mama raised a garden. We ate out of the garden. And what we would do, if it don't be for rabbits, I'd be dead. Because I hunted and killed rabbits with a .22. What Mama would do, she would cook them and can them for the winter, make sausages out of how we got all this. You had to hustle to live. Yeah. But when the Depression come, it was tough. Not only on blacks, it was tough on everybody. Now then, after the Depression, we had the dust storms in Oklahoma. You ever heard of that?
Can you tell me about the Dust Bowl, the dust storms?
The dust storms are the most terrible thing you've ever seen.
What was that like to live
It was like this. Just like you see a sandstorm here, that went on for days. You didn't see the sun. And the sun was just full of dirt, nothing but dirt. And if it come a little rain, it rained down mud. And I'm not talking by hearsay. I saw this with my own eyes. You understand? Now, at that time, my brother had gone. Nobody in the house, but my sister had passed away. This was in 1937. My brother and sister had passed away. Okay, because of not like we would think it was today. Because my sister had what they call septic throat.
Strep throat, yeah, sure.
This was in 1936. 36, yeah. Because they called me and said, well, she was in a Catholic hospital in Oklahoma City. And they said, well, she needs blood. Say, well, you have to come over. If your blood will match, we'll give her a transfusion. I said, yeah, well, that's my sister, you know. I went there, and she was there, and I was here. This is this big vein. I put it right there. You can see that vein from here.
Oh, yeah.
I gave my sister blood. They didn't have it like it is now. Well, we have plasma now, you see.
Right.
And I wish they'd been able to give the man that discovered plasma, just like he did me. You know who it was?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, the dust storms, would that confine you to the house? I mean, you couldn't do farm work.
Oh no, you
when-
good. Why no work? What you gonna do? Listen, the thing that saved us from having a revolution in this country, and people don't give him credit for it. If he hadn't done what he did, we would have had a revolution.
Franklin Roosevelt.
Franklin Roosevelt was in the first NRA. You know what that
The
meant?
National Recovery Administration.
No,
New Deal.
no, the National Recovery Act.
Act.
That's
Okay.
right. Which we explained the whole thing.
Right.
But then after that, NRA came the WPA, Work Progress Administration. Then they had PWA. You understand? And now one of the streets that my business is on downtown, they still have a sidewalk was built by the PW, which is Public Works Administration.
So these New Deal programs,
Saved us.
they hired young men.
Everything. Now they hired young men, but they hired, when I came to California, I'm getting ahead of myself, they had the CC camp.
The Civilian Conservation Corps.
That's right. But now look, now I'm gonna tell you right straight on up to it. Now I'm 16 years old. I'm getting ready to graduate from high school. 2 months to graduate. My brother was working out here. My other brother Lawrence was here. He was in California. Everybody come to California. You see, before I come. So my brother come home, and Mama told him, he said, I'm gonna take him Warren G back to California. No, you can't take me. Gotta finish high school. We gotta stay here. He says, no, he's starving to death here. Say, look at his shoes. He don't have any shoes. He don't have. You know what the most embarrassing thing to me was? I went to a football game, high school football game. Everybody stood up and yelled. I went to up and yelled. My pants split right down the seat. I didn't have no pants. They were clean. My mother washed them so much I had no clothes. My shoes were. My brother said, you going with me. No, just let it rain. Now his wife had finished at Langston University, my brother's wife. In fact, he met her when my mother had this house that the kids was living in. She was, my two sisters and my other brother was living there. And she took in roomers that would go to school on the campus. He met this girl from Crescent. Her name was Odessa. And he started going with her, and they got married. Okay? She graduated, and she graduated as a teacher. She majored in education. He came home and got me in 1937, and got his wife and me, and we got on a freight train and come to California.
You were 16.
Yeah, going on 17. I'm 17 years old. I dropped out of school with two months to go to get my high school diploma. But my father taught us this. You never told the boys, he said, you girls, you get I'm gonna make all the teachers out of all of you. All my sisters are teachers. He said, you get you an education. He said, but you boys, you make whatever you make on your own. Don't never let anyone harness your brains to make so much money a month or a year. Make as much money as your brains will allow you to make. I've never worked for anyone in my life. I work for myself. You understand? So he brought all of us here to California on a freight train. Now, I had never been on a freight train before in my life. The train runs, coil is 2 miles from Langston, but it's just a little small train. When I got on the train, I went to Guthrie to get on the train. It was something new to me. When I got on the train, we went down to Rock Island, and we got on the main line coming to California. When I got on that train, you would see hundreds of people on top of this train. I am the original Grapes of Wrath.
So that was a real image for you. There were
Absolute.
people on the train.
Yeah, I
Going
saw
out to
I saw a
California.
guy. This is a white guy on a freight train, a mattress, a goat, and his 3 little kids. And we were coming to California.
Yeah.
There was a parade, really.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, people don't want to let that touch them. I tell the truth about it.
Right.
I know what it is to be hungry. And I tell people this, you don't know what it is to be poor unless you were once poor. And once you're poor, you never forget what happened to you. Something happened to me that now my brother and I got off, his wife got sick down here at St. Louis Obispo. And she went and going up to the hospital, she was telling something, and a black lady took her in and kept her a while. My brother and I came on. In San Jose, California, I'm 16 years old, 17. I was hungry because we didn't have anything to eat on the freight train. It was 2 or 3 days, we were begging. I was 16. I walked up to this white guy in San Jose. I said, "Mister, I'm hungry. Would you give me something to eat? Give me a quarter?" The man gave me a dollar bill, a white man. So this is why I tell you, all people aren't racist. Some people have sympathy for you.
Right.
And poor people, you don't know what it is to be poor unless you be poor yourself. That's the reason I teach my kids about being poor. Because once you're poor, you learn how to economize.
Did that change? It seemed to change your life a lot in terms of going from driving with your dad in a Model T. You guys had everything, and then to not be able to have shoes or pants.
It was terrible.
It must have been very hard emotionally.
It was hard emotionally. But see, most of the boys left home. But the girls stayed there and went to school and got their education. My sister taught in Oklahoma for $50 a month. But she was teaching before I come, and she would help my mother with us, when after she had graduated got a teacher's credential. But it's a tough story. But you don't give up. And that's what I tell people today. Give out, but don't give up. Always have something in view. Like I'm 92 years old. I have other projects I want to do. But once you start that, now I was in the CC camp too. But you know what saved this country, and they don't want to tell the truth about it. What do you think saved this country from what it is now? The Depression. What do you think happened?
I think the New Deal was a big.
New Deal brought us to, but after the New Deal, why we were still not out of the Depression.
World War II comes.
Hitler. Hitler saved this country. What do you mean saved it? They started the factories to working, they started airplanes building, and they brought people from all over the South. Do you know how many people left the South, not including blacks? Over 1/3 of the people left the South coming. That's the reason I said you was an immigrant.
Wow, yeah, that's right. That's right. We're all kind of immigrants to this state, right? Yeah.
Kaiser shipyards up here in Washington, the aircraft companies up there. You see, this is what happened.
Let me ask about how you first get hooked up with the Civilian Conservation Corps, with the CCC. How do you first get that job?
They had what they call the NYA.
The NYA is the National Youth Administrator.
That's what I was in the NYA.
Tell me, what was that? What was that like?
There's an NYA, they give you food and oranges and clothes and all that stuff. But
For young people.
Yeah, they say you can join the CCC camp. So I say, I'm going to join the CCC. I joined the CCC camp and went down here at San Pablo Dam in Richmond, California. It was only 17 blacks in Richmond at that time. Wow. That was before the war.
Only 17 black people
in Richmond, California. San Pablo was none. I was stationed in San Pablo. What was San Pablo? Show you something. San Pablo was a camp, a CC camp. You know who was there? All the blacks from California, Washington, and Oregon were in the CC camp at San Pablo Dam in Richmond, California. That's segregation. That's where they had all. I know some cabals now from Oregon and Washington, some guys that I met from Washington. You understand?
so it was
This was segregated, and they brought those kids from those 3 states. We're having the same thing now. What are you talking about, Gaines? I'm getting into something that's very, very deep. It's the 3rd largest business in the United States.
Prison system.
You got it. You got it.
So
You're pretty sharp.
Instead of replacing, so now instead of having the National Youth Administration and the CCC, we've managed to desegregate those things, but instead we're funneling young people into prisons.
Here's what happened. Get this book.
This book is what is this?
The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander.
Okay.
And it tells you about what is happening. Now let's go through one right quick. New York City in 2010 and 11 had over 50,000 kids on whites, blacks, Puerto Ricans, and Mexicans and underprivileged people smoking a joint of marijuana. They go to jail, first time. They say, okay, we're going to cause this a misdemeanor. Okay? We're going to give you a 3-year probation. If you come back up here, we're going to give you some time. Okay? You know they're going to smoke another joint. 86% of them smoked a joint. They come back. This time say, now what we're going to give you a felony. You can't get food stamps. You can't get tuition fee, college. You can't get anything. What do? You're going to commit a crime, okay? You commit a crime. Where are they going to put you? They're going to put you in the jail. So if you don't have enough jails, what do? We'll build another jail. Okay, we're building another jail by the state, so now Wall Street say, no, let's put it in some private prisons. We'll build some private prisons. Okay, here's a lobbyist over here, says, okay, you got a private prison. I got a dairy. I'll furnish you the milk. Okay? Like I tell people, if I had a contract with the state to sell toilet paper to California, 800,000 prisons, I would be rich. Mm-hmm. Now, who's making the money? Now, you talk about the food stamp business. This is the greatest food stamps there is in the world, right there. It's the prisons.
Right.
It's just a different way of showing.
Now, tell me about, what did you do when you were working with the NYA, with the National Youth Administration? Did you have, so I know that was a program, that must have been a lifeline for you.
It was a lifeline, but it was just something to eat. Because, see, when I first come here, I never used that to make my living. When I came to California, I was only about 17, they were going on 18 years old. When I got to be 18, I was working my own business. I got me a lawnmower, had iron wheels, and I got me a bicycle, and I pedaled down the street in the white neighborhood, asked to get the lawn cut. I got the lawn cut, 25 cents a lawn. It might take me all day to cut it. I made 25 cents. I kept doing that until one day I was working with a lady, Miss LaRocca, I never will forget it. It was on the flower garden. She says, you want to cut lawn? I said, yeah. She says, how about digging in my flower? I said, that's fine. She said, I'll give you 20 cents an hour. Oh, that's a great deal. I worked for her for almost a year. But I worked on my own. I said, now I'll come and I'll work. It will be 20. You can't pay me by the hour. So you have to pay me by what you think it's worth. Because I didn't want to get no, why? Because she started paying me. I bought me a little Plymouth truck, and I put my tools in the back, and I started doing lawns. Should have stayed in that business. I'd have been rich. But you see, I always made my own living. Never worked for nobody.
So now, but then tell me about what your experience was. We'll get back to that in a moment. But I am really curious to hear about life in the CCC camp.
Well, the life
and what you did, and what sorts of projects you did.
Okay, the life in the CCC camp is just they did road work and they cutting trees and all that and kind of stuff. But I was a little bit too sharp for that. I didn't get out there and do that kind of work. So the guy started asking me. He says, "What can you do?" He says, well, can you come in here and work me around the hospital? I said, yeah, I'd be glad to.
Around in the CCC hospital?
Oh, yeah, they had a hospital and everything there.
Wow.
And he saw that I always was interested in medicine. And I picked up everything that he showed me how to do and learned sterilization and all this kind of stuff. And he says, well, you're pretty sharp. Say, why don't you stay in here and we'll make a little office out of it. We'll give you a stripe. And I said, no, I don't want this. You see, because it was in 1938. Work was opening up then, see. Opening up because 1939, it started opening up because Hitler had marched into Danzig, see. And so things began to open up. I come back to Sacramento, and then I had to, about 20, was 18, you had to register for the draft. Well, I had to register, So I didn't want to go in the Army because I'd been in the CC camp. I said, why didn't you want to go in the Army? Why in the hell should I go in the Army and fight for something that I don't have here in this country? And I stayed out and I did everything to stay out. I got a government job working at Mesa Field, and I was working as an aircraft mechanic. I'm pretty sharp when it comes to those things, see. Because first thing, I'm good at math, and people don't understand. What most people don't understand about African Americans, they're pretty sharp, some of them, and they can hide it to let you know that he's not as dumb as you think he is. But a lot of times they put on an act to make you think they're dumb. But you have to use this charade to get along in this world. Now, you take a woman that's scrubbing the floors and she's doing all of this dirty work. Yes, ma'am, Miss so-and-so. She's sending her kids to college while she's doing that. You understand? Did you see the help? That shows you how it works, see. But why? I'll ask this question. Why is it white people hate us? Can you understand why? I don't understand why. They've done all the dirty work, they've done everything to make you what you are. And look at today. This guy up here talking about what he's going to do for people, Romney, and what he was read, that we were devils. We couldn't go to heaven unless a white man took us. You understand? And he's up here talking all this bullshit he's talking. This is crazy. Don't you know we can see through that fella? Romney, I hope you're not a Mormon.
With that, we're out of this tape for the first tape. I need to put it in.
Yeah. I'm going a little ahead of the story. We were talking about education and working for yourself. I was telling the interviewer that I had a grocery store, a barber shop, and a ice cream parlor. And I was coming home at night, and a policeman picked me up. They always follow black people at night. That doesn't bother me. I was coming down Charter Way. I said, "Oh, I got a cop following me. He was it wasn't a patrol car. It was in a city car. I knew what it was. Followed me all clear across out of city limits and turned the corner right here on the Carpenter Road. Pull me over. He says, "Keep your hands on the steering wheel." I said, "I am. I got my hands on the steering wheel." He said, "What you got in the car?" I said, "I got my bag in the car." And I said, "I have a pistol here laying down." "You got a gun?" I said, "Yes, I have a gun." He says, "Keep your hands on the steering wheel." The other guy out on the other side, and flashing the lights on. He says, "What are you doing with that gun?" I said, "I run a business downtown." "Oh, I think you're lying." I said, "Well," I told you, I think I have a business downtown. So they call the desk sergeant and say, "We got a guy named Warren Gaines. He ain't got a gun, a loaded gun, blah, 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 blah." He said, "Oh, that's Mr. Gaines." Say, "Don't bother that fella." Say, you understand? This is racial profiling. I meet it all the time. I know how to. See, here's a proposition with policemen. This is a mistake that the police department in every city has made. They go get some yokel that don't know anything about the African American community, doesn't know any, can't habla español, nada, and put him on the force. Here he comes from a small town, don't know anything, and he reads all these books and He's a punk in the schoolyard. Put a badge on him. He's going to take it out on every person he see that he can kick his ass. You understand? And I was against hiring people out of the city limits. You understand? Because they hired
Because they don't know the community.
They don't go into the community. They're afraid to go in there because he was afraid on the schoolyard. He don't know how to talk to people. These guys be clowning and going on. He think the guy gonna cut his throat. The guys just be kidding with each other. You got to be in the community. This is the reason why this fella that's running for president today, he doesn't know anything about poor people. He don't even know what a donut is.
Right, yeah. Let me ask then, so we're in 1939. So you've now left the CCC and started going into business on your own.
No. I was just 39. I was only 19 years old.
19.
And 20, we started the war. Now this is the time I worked for the government. I had to work as an aircraft mechanic, and I was doing the work. But I was working there to stay out of the army because I was married. I didn't have any children, but I was married, and I worked and I got deferred. You understand? Clear up until 1942.
Can you tell me about December 7th, 1941? When
Yes,
Pearl
sir.
Harbor
I
was
can
attacked?
tell you exactly what happened at Pearl Harbor.
What
I was working for as an aircraft captain, and then I went into construction work because they let black people in the union. Now, what are you talking about? We finally got into the union. They paid 88 cents an hour. 80 in the union, construction, FL union. I got in the union, started pouring cement. I was doing dirty, hard work. I poured cement all day, the night before Pearl Harbor. I didn't know about Pearl Harbor until the next day, because I slept that Sunday. And I went to crawl through the fence and they put their guns on. What are you doing? I said, I'm going back to work. He said, man, don't you know they just attacked Pearl Harbor? I said, I didn't know anything about it. That was December the 7th, 1941. That's right.
Wow.
I remember that.
So being in the union was a big deal.
Big deal for blacks who couldn't get in the union. Couldn't get in the union.
And then once you finally did get in the union, was there a particular tension or attitude about?
Yes, not with the construction workers. It wasn't no attitude because most of those guys that were doing construction work were poor just like we are. So they come up from Oklahoma and all that kind of stuff. They were just transits just like we were before the war. But now some of them, the racism began to come out on these guys that come out of Arkansas, Oklahoma, Mississippi and everything. When they got here, they wanted to bring the same tactics that they had down there, or they had the same thing going here in California. Because when I was picking fruit, like these harvest workers pick fruit. Oh, I pick fruit. What are you talking about? This is what I had to do. When I worked, when I couldn't, my lawns wasn't working, or my business wasn't working, I bucked hay, thin beets with the little short handle hoe, picked tomatoes for 3 cents a box. Let me tell you, when I first come to California, I had never seen a $5 bill.
Wow.
On my own. I got off when I come. My brother was already here. He was working for the roundhouse down at Southern Pacific Roundhouse. He was a janitor down there. That's all he was doing. But he told me, say, man, you can go out there and pick up spinach. They pay 3 cents a box. I said, 3 cents a box? He said, yeah, they'll show you how to do it. I went crazy. I picked 100 boxes of spinach at 3 cents a box. That's $3. I took that money. After a week, I think I made $14 or $15. I put it in the post office, postal saving. I would go to the bank. I have not been broke since then.
Wow. That's amazing.
3 cents a box because I never been broke. I haven't never been broke since. Because and I don't make any bills. Nothing. Because my dad taught me, say, son, don't ever pay in interest. Take interest in. Don't pay out interest.
Tell me about your feelings about FDR.
Franklin D. Roosevelt saved this country from a revolution. If he hadn't done what he did, look where we would have been. We would have riots, I mean real ones, shooting. But he held it until Hitler come along. Then they opened it up. But someday this country is going to revert back to what it was originally for. Rich people are not going to run this country forever. And middle class people are going to be the ones that change it. Because it's no sense in 5 people running the whole country. You know who I'm talking about, don't you? You know who I'm talking about, the 5 people?
No, for the 5 people? Who are the 5 people?
Where does our money come from?
The banks?
Who owns the banks?
Help me out here. Wealthy business owners.
J.P. Morgan,
Morgan.
Rockefeller Company. Those are the people that run the country.
Yeah, right.
Now, what if those people want to put the clamps on us like they're doing today? Now, the first thing they're getting ready to do now, I don't know how the Supreme Court has been bought. The health care bill that they're putting up now is the best thing that ever happened in this country. But they don't want that.
Right.
But that's all. I can't do it.
Tell me about
what?
Well, I'm just curious about the start of the war then, and that
job. Now the war come. When the war come on, they finally drafted me.
They finally drafted you. Okay.
Yeah, and I was drafted in 1942, and they sent me. They sent all of us up from these 4 counties to Sacramento to be examined.
Into the army.
No, to examine in Sacramento, and then we go to down here to Fort Ord. Oh, look here. So they examined me and everything. A lot of blacks and everybody was all together, and we went down there to get examined and so forth. I passed and sent down here to Monterey. So they were shipping us out to different places. So we were all together, integrated and everything, going fine, because, California has always been integrated, but you live in different parts of town. So anyway, when I got down there, they say, well, we're going to send you to Texas. I said, oh, go to Texas? Oh, well, I've been through Texas. Shit, I was on a freight train in Texas. They run me like I was a rabbit. So anyway, we got to Texas, segregated army. I went into the 9th Cavalry Division. My IQ was over 120, so they put me in the Signal Corps. Okay? So, on a black, 15,000 blacks in one spot. That's right. But see, the Army's divided: Signal Corps, Medical Engineers, Fighting Division, Army, and all this other stuff. I was in the 9th Cavalry Division. Horses. They had horses there. And segregated. All officers were white, and no black officers, nothing. And most of them were second lieutenants, didn't know shit about nothing. Right. I'll tell you one incident that happened to me when I was there. We had to go get your teeth, examined in the field and all that. So I went up there to get my teeth filled. So this guy started filling my teeth, and he put that grinder right on the nerve. And I said, man, you got the grinder on the nerve. Shut up, shoulder. I said, man, look. I say, I'll tell you what, you cannot feel my teeth. Oh, your mouth won't feel your teeth. Soldier, you just sit down with a white guy. I grabbed him by both his arms, and I started to the window. We're going to jump out of the window on the 2nd story. He hollered, and the lieutenant called, turn him loose. I said, what the hell? This guy's grinding on my teeth. Hell, does he understand that he's hurting me? He said, you just sit down over there. We go to MPI. I said, I don't give a damn who you call. You understand? So we calmed down. Captain Marks stuck his head in the door. I never forget. He said, what's wrong, soldier? I said, this guy here don't know about filling no teeth. He was a 90-day wonder. Call himself, he's a 90-day wonder. We call him lieutenant. He said, you come back tomorrow and I'll fill your tooth. Captain Marks, the next day I come back. He came there, set me down. He said, you have to understand, you're in the Army now. I said, I don't give a darn about being in the Army. He said, some of these guys don't know how to do anything. We just let them do it. I said, but that's hurting. He said, now you be careful. You get yourself in trouble. There's always somebody that understands. He feel my tooth, and we got along fine. He's Captain Marks. He's from New York. He saw me later. How you doing? Private gauge. So this is the way it works.
Yep.
Now I'll tell you another thing. Now I'm in this segregated army, and I was telling you about what happened in Louisiana when I was on this. When we were on maneuvers, and they told me, and all of my guys said, I was on a bus I was stationed at San Antonio, but we were at Fort Clark. That's where we were at Fort Clark. It's 120 miles from San Antonio. Then there's Randolph, Kelly, Honda Field, and all these air bases around there. We were on the bus going from Commerce Street over to the Squeeze In. That's a black place that they had dancing and all the music and everything over there. We were on the bus and we were all drinking, everybody drinking and having fun. On the bus, this girl, white girl, comes sit down beside this black guy on the way. Both buses supposed to be segregated. Now got the uniforms on. I wasn't in this. So I was sitting on the bus. He sat down there, guy started talking. The bus driver said, "What are you doing talking to him?" They got in an argument. They were from New York. She was from New York down there, and he's from New York. They started talking. He pulled over and stopped the bus and don't kick him off the bus. And when he started kicking the balls, he called the police. Here come the police. So people were getting a crowd around the bus like that. And we were all in there. Them, get them niggas off the bus. No, where is she? You don't understand it. But wait a minute. One of them guys stuck his head through the window. The guy slammed the window and beat the shit out of him. Here come the provost marshal, because they're going to have a riot there. Because the white folks were rioting, and when black folks would be racing, that's a race riot because we were outnumbered. He said, "Can any of you guys that drive this bus?" This guy said, "Yeah, I drive a 6x6, 8x8. What do you mean?" He said, "Take this bus and drive it on away from me." These guys in the South, when they run a troop train from Texas and got to go through them Alabama and Mississippi, they shoot in the damn planes at the black soldiers. Don't you let nobody tell you they didn't.
So right around the same time, I understand there's a growing campaign in the African American community starting around 43 called the Double Victory Campaign, where African Americans are talking about why would we, fight Hitler and fascism in Europe when we don't have the civil rights here at home that we're supposedly fighting for. So victory abroad and victory at home so it seems like the racism that you confronted in the Army during that time, it would make one wonder, why are we...
Why do you think that the blacks didn't want to go? They didn't want to go. I've seen guys in North Carolina, guys that went to Germany and fought in the war, got their eyes punched out, they got beat up and everything else after they come back. Why? Because they thought they'd fool with a white woman. Let me tell you something. As long as they were screwing black women, it's all right. But let one of them guys start messing with white girls, it's altogether different. Now right here, I have my business down there. I started my barbershop in 1945 here in Stockton. I've been there 69 years. I've seen rich people come down there looking for black whores. They're asking me, say, "Hey man, you know where I can find a nice young white black girl?" I say, "Yeah." I say, let's do it. I said, "Now you bring me a nice young white girl and we'll have some fun." Then he gets mad. You understand?
So it's a big component of the racism and the sex and sexuality.
Why?
Why is there that intersect?
I don't know, but it's got to happen. It's getting there now, and it's almost there, but it's not quite there. Look, and the worst thing is your police department, and your detective department, and your justice system. And I can tell you things about the justice system is bad. I'll tell you one incident happened to me. Now the crack cocaine and the cocaine. This is a different thing. The drugs in the 40s and the 50s was really going rampant. You know what I mean? in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. We having crack, cocaine, methamphetamines hadn't started until about in the early 70s, you know.
Right.
So I'm working in my barber shop. I'm using a razor that time, cutting hair. This policeman come in there. I don't know, it wasn't a policeman. It was, excuse me. I'm standing there cutting hair. Guy come up. He had on a white uniform, like he was working in a drugstore or something. He said, "Hey man, say you know where I can get some reds? You know what Red Devils are doing? Red Devils at that time was a pill.
Pills.
Yeah, Red Devil. And you know I can get some marijuana or some heroin?" I say, "No, just a minute. I'll tell you." I took my razor and set it down, and I grabbed him by both his shoulders like that, and I kicked his ass out of my barber shop, hard as I could kick him, right down the street. I said, "You come back in here next time, I'm gonna cut your damn throat." Next day, here come the policeman. This little guy said, "You remember me?" I said, "Well, remember you what?" I said, "You remember kicking me out of here yesterday?" I said, "What for?" Oh, he said, "You the guy that asked me for some drugs." I said, "You're lucky I didn't cut your fucking throat. I don't sell no drugs here. I'm a businessman." And old Quail and Bird. Now these guys is named Quail and Bird. One name. They were big old tall detectives. I knew them, and of course I'm on the street all the time. And I told them, I say, "You know I don't sell no damn drugs." I haven't been bothered since. Now here's why I like to got in trouble. I was standing out in front of my place. Sun was shining. Now they had the paddy wagons in. You never seen a paddy wagon here. A paddy wagon is where they used to pick up the drunks on the street. They throw them in there. They'd be drunk and throw them in. So they threw this drunk in there, and his leg was sticking out like that. And this guy closed the door on his leg. Wham! Bam! I said, "Man, what are you doing?" I said, "Don't you see that man's foot sticking out there? You better get back in that barber shop, boy." I looked at him. I said, "But you don't have to do that." Wham! Wham! He closed the door. I said, that's a white guy closing the door on another white guy. So that just goes to show you the mentality that some of your policemen have.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's terrible, isn't it?
It's terrible. Let's we get back to the war for a moment. What was that? Tell me a little bit about the experience that you had in 44 and 45. I'll ask about the end of the war in a minute. Tell me about
44 and 45. I was in 44. I got out in 44.
Okay.
In 43, I was down in Texas, and I was in the Signal Corps. They broke up our Signal Corps. They were sending blacks overseas in. It was hot then. It was really getting. The guys was at Anzio, and they were in Germany and every place. And they were going to send us overseas, but we were technical. We did pole line construction, and we did radio receiving and pole line construction, and it wasn't like it is now. You didn't have a radio and all that kind of stuff, just a very little bit, because we hadn't elevated into that part of our technology. So they made our Signal Corps. See, a Signal Corps is the background for the whole unit. They broke up the whole unit. They sent some of the engineers someplace, and some of the guys that was in artillery, field artillery, they sent them. But there's so much was happening down there. If you study the history of the blacks down in the South, you'll see that they had a lot of riots, but they don't mention it very much in your books because they try to keep it out of there to let you know what was going on. But anyway, they sent us to to Camp Crowder, Missouri. That's where I was in the Camp Crowder, Missouri. Okay, I was married then. I got my wife down there because I didn't have no children. Because she was drawing my little. I was only getting $29 a month. So she came down because I never was. Well, when I was stationed at Fort Clark, Texas, we would send convoys into Mexico every weekend. Now, why did you send the soldiers over there? Because they had open prostitution there. And what they'd send all these soldiers over there, a whole 2,000 of them or 3,000, and you'd go into the Mexican in where all them whores was out there, and you go over there and you have fun,
Wow.
dance, and you go tricking with the whores and all this kind of stuff. This is where they had 15,000 soldiers there, so you know they were having fun with the girls over there. As was in Villacuña in the state of Coahuila. And then you go over there and you come back, and they had a big prophylactic station about as big as this whole thing here. And you go in there, and then they'd have to shoot that eye draw up in your penis and wash up and everything. Of course, a lot of guys got gonorrhea and everything else. Yeah. I remember one guy, he'd been going over there. He came out one morning to take a leak, and had holes in his penis, water went everywhere.
Oh, no.
But this is experiences that I had. I saw all of this happening, see.
And were there ever any? You hear these sort of, you see these stories or hear these, you see images of manuals given out to soldiers or instructional guides of, to avoid, loose women or.
They tell you all that bullshit. That's nothing but jive. Look, let me tell you, I've seen guys that would line up to have sex with women. And there would be 3 or 4 whores in this one house, and the guys lining up to go in there and have sex. And man, what the hell's wrong with you? Something's wrong up in their head. But men are that way. Sex is a terrible thing. And guys kill for sex and all that other kind of stuff. But I don't know, something goes wrong with a guy's head when you get that crazy. But now sex is something, we all come here by sex. We know that. But some guys just take it to a different level. But the experiences I've had a lot of experiences, but I never let that bother me, because one thing that I teach my kids, and my father taught me this, is something that you really have to understand, is to take a piece of paper and go up the river, stand on the bridge, and drop it on this side. That piece of paper goes under the bridge and down the road, down the river. And I teach my kids this: don't dwell on that past. That's water under the bridge. That's gone. You can't rectify that. But you can use your experience that happened, and you don't want it to go under the bridge like that. Do you understand? And that's what I tell you. Don't give out. Don't give up. I mean, you can give out, but don't give up.
So was it common so you had your wife there with you stationed at the base. Was that was fairly uncommon? No.
You could bring your wife down there, but you'd have to leave her in the little town where you were.
Okay.
And and they'd give you a pass to go and see her probably at night, or some of you didn't get in no trouble, and you got to be back at the base for reveille at that morning. So I did that.
Okay.
And when we was in Missouri, she stayed in town. I'd go to take a bus and go downtown. She lived in the black part of town. I'd get on the segregated bus and get on the army bus and go back to now the army. Now this is at Camp Crowder, Missouri. There was 80,000 people there. We had a company of 3,000 some men. We were stationed over, of course we call it Camp Crow, because it's black over here. Segregated. All these guys had tanks and everything over there. They had a little problem, but the ammunition dump was in our neighborhood. I mean, around the blacks. And they got in a little ride. And man, it's terrible. Everybody was shooting bullets, tracer bullets flying everywhere. Then they were going to send the Air Force in there. But you see, the blacks never give up. They were fighting over. Some guy said that this black guy had raped some woman. And then they had lined all of us up. I think it was 3 companies of us, lined us up and said, look here, this girl is coming to look and see if it's one of you guys. Now, if she'd have chosen me, I'd have been a dead man. You understand?
There's nothing you could do.
Nothing I could do. All of us lined up with him, and she walking by and looking at him. What the hell? It's very, very... No.
Did that feel, was that a powerless situation or frustrating, or how did that feel?
It's just like it is when the Army, if the government and the policeman round you up and put you in that position, nothing you can do. Here's an old African proverb that I've taught my kids this. I say, when you have, this is an Ashanti proverb, and my mother taught me. When you have your hands in the lion's mouth, go easy till you get it out. Because if you snatch it out, he's going to claw you in the back. So we have our hands in the lion's mouth. You got to work easy with him. And I told my sons this. I say, don't ever talk back to the policeman. You understand? My two boys majored in criminology, but when they got out, they went out to work at my twins. They went to work. I was going to go to work out in O.H. Clove to a boys' home. He said, "Daddy, I don't want to be around all those criminals." I said, "Choose you another field." You understand? Because, so I say, you're going to get stopped because you color your skin. He said, police stop them all the time, right now. And they say, what is your name? You tell them. You understand? But you have to don't get boish with them because you get yourself in trouble. Then hell, they weigh 230 pounds, they fight like hell, but I teach them that you can't win.
Now you leave the Army before the end of the war.
I left and...
Can you tell me about how that happened?
Yeah, they turned us out when in 1944 I got discharged at Camp Beale up here in Sacramento because they were getting rid of the surplus because we were in a fighting unit anymore. They didn't need us, so they just give you honorable discharge and just you was getting out of the Army. I got out of the Army in 1944. In December 1944, then I went and got me a divorce because I just stayed there until I got out, you know. Then I went back and started my own business again.
Okay.
But what happened when I got out, they had the best thing that ever happened to soldiers, and we should have it today, is a GI Bill of Rights. When I got out, I said, I'm going to... The guy said, what are you going to do? You want to get the GI Bill? I said, yeah, I'm going to. He said, what are you going to be? I said, I don't know. So one of my friends, he said, well, why don't you be a mortician? I said, oh, that'd be fine. So I said, that'd be good. I said, but how am I going to do that? I don't have nobody but myself. He said, that's all right. So they pay you $50 a month. They didn't pay for your tuition fee. You have to find a place to live there. But that was $50 a month then. And they pay for your schooling. So I went to barber school. You understand? I went to barber school and had to serve out your apprenticeship. Now, I was making $50 a month. That's what they were giving me. I was going to barber school. I got me a job working at night, working icing cars at the railroad, and I was working in a mechanic shop at night, cleaning up mechanic shop in Sacramento, because I was there before I went to the Army. I had 2 jobs until I could get my apprentice license. Then when I got my apprentice license, I come to Stockton, California, 1945, October 6, 1945. I went to work for an inventor named what's his name? Price. That's right. His name was Price. Spike. His name was Spike. He had a barber shop. He hired me as an apprentice. Was getting $1 haircut. He took 25 cents on the dollar. That made me have 75 cents. I made $30 that first day. Man, I was really rich. You understand?
Tell me about, I want to get back to that in a moment, but let's talk first about, because FDR passes away and Truman comes into office. Can you talk a little bit about what...
I can talk about the best president ever been there.
Truman.
Was Harry S. Truman. When Truman got up and played his piano that morning and clapped his hands, he said, I'm desegregating the Army today.
Yep.
That's the best president we've ever had. He stood on his own courage. He was a sharp man. Because you know why he was that way? He was once poor. Truman didn't always didn't always have anything. You knew that, didn't you?
Yeah. He came from pretty modest means in Missouri.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Truman was a real president, and he spoke. Of course, I had my doubts about him when they persuaded him to drop the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
What did you think about that?
I think that's the most cruelest thing could ever happen. Would you kill 280,000 people at one time? Huh?
Women and children and yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
What did Sherman say? War is hell. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? General Sherman, when he burned Atlanta. War is hell. Why are people that mean? I cannot understand it. And so far as this being a Christian nation, this is the worst you've ever seen. Now, if people ask me again, say, you don't go to church or nothing, I say, I'm not an atheist. I'm not anything that you think I am. I say, I am a follower of the greatest teacher of all time is Jesus Christ. Jesus, the son of Joseph. What do you mean? Well, he's a Christian. I say, but I'm a Christian. I follow his teachings. I don't go to nobody's church. Jesus didn't go to nobody's church. He whipped them out of the church, using my father's house as a den of thieves. They're selling things in there. What does the churches do today? It's the worst hypocrisy in the world. How can you call yourself a Christian nation and keep people in slavery and kill Indians like they're dogs? Europeans are terrible people. Some of them are. Not all of them. Look how they did the people in Central and South America. And Indians that wouldn't even convert to Catholicism, they killed a lot of them right here in California. And this is what I cannot understand about Europeans. Why is it they want to be conquerors? Even King Philip. And I was talking to a Filipino lady. I say, where do you think you got your name from? King Philip. They named the Philippine Island. And I have a grandson who is real sharp. He's 14 years old. He wants to be a dentist. He's my grandson, 4-point student. And I asked him the other day when he was over here, I say, what do you know about the pyramids? He said, oh, I know quite a bit about the pyramids. I said, well, what do you think? Who you think built the pyramids? He said, slaves built them. I say, what slaves? He said, well, the African slaves built them. Well, I said, oh, you know that before the map was changed, that this part of Egypt was in Africa. Oh, yeah. I say, how do you think they got those rocks up there? He said, well, the slaves put them up there. I say, but some of those things are almost 400 feet in the air. I said, how do you think they got them up there? He said, well, Papa, I really don't know. I say, now I'm going to tell you something about those rocks. I say, if you look at those rocks, there's no rocks, almost granite, or maybe granite, in that vicinity. Those rocks come from 300 miles up the Nile River. How do you think they got them down there? He looked at me just like you. And I say, you know about the Stonehenges in England? And he said, yeah, I know about them. I said, well, what do you know about the terracotta soldiers? He's 14. He said, yeah, that's in China. He says, yeah, he's sharp. And I says to him, I say, you're pretty good. So I teach all my kids, and my sons teach their kids the same thing. Here's what he said. He says, I read. I says, oh, so your daddy taught you what I taught you, huh? What I taught him. He says, yeah. Knowledge doesn't fall out of the sky into your head. Knowledge is found in books. So this is what my whole family goes. And I'll tell you what I want you to do. This is the best birthday present I've ever got. Oh,
I think you should read it out loud onto the camera, I think.
Okay.
Is that okay? Yeah, will you read this to me?
all right.
So this is the best birthday present you've ever
This is the best. No, I don't celebrate no days. I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't celebrate birthdays. I'll tell you why. You were talking about depression. I think I was 9 or 11 years old. All the kids in the community got on Christmas Day, they got oranges and the sock and everything, and I didn't have anything, nothing. Didn't even have food on the table. You understand? It hurt me. I said, I'll never celebrate a day in my life, no more. I don't celebrate no days. My birthday, I don't celebrate that. No, don't celebrate that. Because one day is just like another as long as you're alive. So I'm a strange kind of fellow. I'll tell you why I'm strange. I stayed on the farm with my daddy for about 4 years. Nobody, he and I out there. I'm a loner. I can go out there and I stayed on my daddy's horse, herding my cattle, herding his cows, and see that they didn't break out of the fences and all. Because we had a little big stock. Wasn't nobody there but he and I. And I found out something about my father. I did not know he spoke German, because he never taught his kids none of it. So he would communicate with this German guy next.
That's amazing.
That's very amazing.
Wow.
I don't know why he didn't teach us German. Because I guess he didn't want. You see, I'll show you my daddy's picture in a few minutes. But here's what. You see, people do not understand Jewish people. Jews, the original Jew, was my color. You don't find no Europeans in Jerusalem. And this is why I don't have any respect for the Jewish nation that's there today. You know why? When Golda Meir and Menachem Begin went into Israel in the 70s or 60s or wherever it was, no, it was before that, in the 40s, where they sent 8,000 black Jews to Eritrea. You know where Eritrea is, don't you? It's a little country right outside of Ethiopia. Black. They haven't brought them back yet.
So there is a racial
racism. There's racism.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, have you ever known anything about Beethoven? Beethoven's hair is just like mine.
Right, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, it is actually, yeah. I like your, tell me about, what's the connection?
They were all that. Civilization began in Africa.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's...
Now, I'll tell you a little incident that happened with me.
Good.
I was in this doctor's office, and we were talking, and so I said, you really like using that method of sterilization? He says, yeah. I says, yeah. He says, what do you know about sterilization? I say, I know about the Imhodamus method. He said, what do you mean? What do you know about the Imhodamus method? I said, that's the method of sterilization. I say, it originated with Imhotep. He said, what do you know about Imhotep? I'm not supposed to know the...
So is that the sort of reaction that you would get over the course of your life? That you a big aspect of that is, like you said, the way African American men are expected to project what they know, or they're not expected to act and behave in a certain way. Do you find that surprise to a lot of people?
I love it. I love it. I eat it up. Look, when you go to a black school, you learn how to speak English. You learn, the teachers there put so much in your head. And when you go to a black college or a black school when you're growing up, the teachers put this in you. They used to, but they don't do it anymore. They teach you to speak correct English. My kids right here, good, got a master's degree. Can you diagram a sentence?
Most people in my generation can't, and that's a problem. That's a problem, right?
Where is it at?
Right.
Using preposition at the end of a sentence. But you see, we don't teach that today. But my kids, I say, Daddy, you always... I say, listen, I was taught. I don't have a college degree, but I can work any problem you have, and any problem that you have in the algebra, geometry, and trig. But see, math runs in my family. I had one daughter. My father was a mathematician and an artist and a musician. That's running in my family. I had one daughter, she's passed away. She could work trig in her head. She was too smart. She passed away when she was in her, graduated from high school in 2 or 3 years. My sister did too. They were all real smart. But I hope that my grandson here is not too smart, but he's very, very sharp. And I talked to him the other day. I told him, I says, now, my 2 kids went to, my 3 kids, 4 kids of mine went to Franklin High School. When they went to Fresno State, they had to take bonehead English because English wasn't taught, the curriculum wasn't high enough. So when they went there, they told me, say, Daddy sent Tasha to St. Mary's. I said, but it costs some money. She said, you pay now or pay later. So we sent her to St. Mary's. She's not as sharp as they are, but she obtained a better education than they got. You understand? This is what I'm telling you about our public schools and about the English.
Let me ask. Do you want to read this to me?
All
Tell
right,
me
now,
what that is. Tell
all
me
right,
what
now
it is.
listen. This is from Father's Day.
Okay.
This is my son. Well, I'll tell you this. I'll just read it and let you listen to it. From son to father, of all the wisdom you have bestowed upon me, I carry it wherever I go. Now I have reflect on the journey that I have taken and the voices of consciousness that have guided me all the way. It has been yours. I see now the importance of true fatherhood, the burden of worry, the constant nagging of wanting more for your child. You have groomed me well. More importantly, you have made me a good person. With all the craziness in the world, you have protected me. I shall for my son only offer the same and encouraging him of the legacy you have created. Education is the key to success, no matter it be through vocational or traditional means. Thank you from father to father. Ali Gaines. How did that sound to you?
That's really poignant. That's really amazing.
It's very amazing. I let a guy read this who's a teacher. He says, can I take this and teach it in my school? I say, you can take it whenever you want.
That's great. That's really great. So I have several questions for you before we wrap up. Let me ask the first question. We talked about Richmond and how when you first went to Richmond, California, it had a population of 19 black people.
That's right. That was before the war.
After the war, when you come back, what had changed and why?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. Richmond, El Cerrito, and all these places are populated with people who come in here from the South. Both people. San Francisco, all of it. You see, I was in San Francisco when in the 40s, in the 30s. I used to go over there to party and everything. San Francisco was one of the racist towns you'd ever want to see. What? I was there when it was racist. There was very few people there until the war. It was only, you see, San Francisco is made up, you know what it's made up out of, don't you? Whores and gamblers. Well, I'm just telling you the truth. And this is a bad thing to say. But it's run by rich people. But that was before the war. Now look, there wasn't no Hunters Point. But after Hunters Point, Army Street and all that, when they started to go, they had to, Hungusta, didn't want no black policemen there and all that kind of stuff. If you do some research, you'll find it out. It's kind of bad. Now look what happened there. After the war, during the war, Fillmore Street, from Sutter, clear down to Haight Street. You live in San Francisco, you know what I'm talking about. They had everything there. Grocery stores, drug stores, clothing stores, everything you want to see there. What did they do? They wiped it out. Run all the businesses out. Oakland the same way. Oakland was a thriving community. They had more black businesses than Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow.
Don't have them now. What did they do? Watch this. They ran the freeway through Oakland. They wiped it out. They ran the freeway right down Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee. Wiped all the black businesses out. Stockton, California, we had one hotel 18 stories high. They run the freeway right through there. I moved 5 times. Five times my barbershop was moved. They run the freeway right down through the black businesses. We don't have any businesses here now. This is not done by accident. This is done by design. Why? Why? Redevelopment. They call it redevelopment. Urban renewal, redevelopment. Scatter you out. They do nothing. They want. It's terrible. But I'm one businessman. I'm standing there. Look, they had hotels, barbershops, beauty shops, saloons, and everything. We don't have it here now. What's going on?
So this is that those developments are taking place at the same time that a small group of people are starting to become more and more active and vibrant and organized in the South, and then eventually a lot of people from the West Coast start to get hooked up with them in what we now understand as the civil rights movement after World War II.
Yeah.
Can you talk about was there some? Did you start to hear about this guy Martin Luther King, and was that and what he was doing in the South, or letters from the Birmingham jail, things like that? Was that starting to resonate?
That resonated with me quite a bit. Yeah. But Martin Luther King and all these guys, Malcolm X and all of them, they are doing a terrific job. By the population that we have, you see, it's only 7% of us, and it's only 7% of blacks in California. Ain't much we can do. But here's the point. I cannot understand why they want to do this segregation between the races like that and to keep us divided. They keep us divided, then they can conquer you. But why? Why I cannot understand. We are the true Americans. We are the ones who built this country. Never got paid a dime for building it. You understand? But now you're saying, who built this country? Oh, the immigrants built it. Look, they talk about the Hispanics getting citizenship, making citizens out of them. You know how long it took us to be a citizen? From 1620 till 1869, we were not citizens. We built this country. We wasn't citizens until after slavery.
Right.
Made a citizen out of it.
Now, in the 50s and 60s, one of the big debates that's coming out is, on the one hand, you've got a legal strategy of the NAACP of trying to fight legal court cases to address segregation and civil rights issues. And then you also have a group, the Congress of Racial Equality, the biracial group that's doing more of the nonviolent civil resistance, like the sit-ins and shop-ins and stuff during that era. Can you talk, was that a little bit of a tension there between those two, or did you see those two groups as working fairly well?
They're working real good together.
Okay.
They can only do so much by going by the law. We can't win by fighting because we are not organized enough with artillery and all this other kind of stuff. We're not that way. In fact, we're not warriors. We really want this country to survive.
So that's, I mean, the NAACP strategy is pretty radically different from some of the riots that.
But Thurgood Marshall was a lawyer for the NAACP. He took it to the Supreme Court. We say we're going to want to make you live by what you say you wrote. All men are created equal. Now, why do you want to have separate schools if this is your law? This is your law. We let you run your own law. Now we're going to take you to the courts and see if you will live up to your own law. That's how you have to have that. We can't fight to get it. And nobody gives you anything without a fight, so you fight legally to get it. Now, how could here's a main problem with the Constitution. How in the hell is a guy going to write the Constitution and he has slaves? Huh?
Right.
This guy, Fanny Hayman, had 5 kids by him. What the hell? Took other friends with him. She was a mulatto, all right. I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about.
Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
And listen, let me tell you about George Washington. I got $1,000 for any man can name me a white man in this country that is white, named George Washington.
Yeah, and,
I'll tell you why.
yeah, why is that?
George Washington came here with his brother Henry. Henry went back to England. George married Martha. She was barren and couldn't have any kids. He had 900 slaves. Most of them were mixed with him. Name me one person. Now, tell somebody come to see me.
I can't but of course, the first name that comes to mind is George Washington Carver, right?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but look at Booker T. Washington's daddy was white.
Yep. Wow. Yeah.
You see, understand? But see, here's what I can understand. If I had a kid over here, I own that kid. That's mine. Now, the only guy that I own, Strong Thurman, is the only one I give credit for having any gumptions about him. You know Strong Thurman, the racist.
Yeah,
you know, he had a baby by a black woman, and he raised those 4 black kids, and she went there to see him, and she that's my daddy.
Right.
And he voted against segregation.
Right.
I'm both for segregation.
Right. That's right. That's mind-boggling.
Huh?
It's amazing. It's mind-boggling. So, okay, with that, I think we're... All right. My name is Sam Redmond. Today is Thursday, June 21st. This is my 3rd tape with Warren Gaines. So, Warren, when we left off, we were at the end of the war. We talked about how life had changed in cities like Oakland and Stockton and Richmond during the war. We talked a little bit about civil rights and the civil rights movement and the influence that was happening, that was maybe having here in California. What did you think? Did you think that there was? Can you talk to me about how how black servicemen from World War II who used the GI Bill, who then many of them went into business for themselves, or would go further their education with the GI Bill, or build a home or things like that. What then happened to these folks living in California?
Well, California, a lot of servicemen took advantage of the GI Bill. That was the best thing that ever happened in the United States, was to give education. And a lot of them taking second generations now. Their kids are going to school now, a lot of them. But you're going to have some that don't. But a lot of people took advantage of the GI Bill of Rights. And a lot of servicemen coming out of service today, they should have the same opportunity that we had. Because I got mine through going under the GI Bill of Rights, which just being a barber, but I wanted to be a businessman. And after I got to be a barber, I learned how to finagle and to make more businesses for myself. I started out with nothing. And now I'm in a pretty good position. Because I'm a farmer. I love what I'm doing now. I raise goats, sheep, and all this other stuff. I did that. I'm out on 5 acres of land. Sure, that's what I like. And I got businesses in town. But here's the point about going into business. You have to have money to go in business. And you can't get a loan. And the loans that you make, a lot of times the percentage is higher than it is for other people, especially for blacks. That's the reason I don't buy on credit, because you get a different percentage when you go to make a loan. And I have white guys that I know, real good friends of mine. Well, one guy was working a used car lot, and he's told by the management, when a black guy comes in here, get what you can out of him. You know what I mean? If the percentage is 5%, tell him the lowest he can get is 8. You understand? And he tells me why they do this. Now, why is it they have to do that? This is what they are taught to take advantage of you. And most people don't understand percentage. First thing, a poor person never should have a credit card. You can't pay no 27% on a dollar. Are you out of your mind? This is how they look at ignorant people. And the ignorant people is the ones that's not only blacks they take advantage of, but they have a difference, about housing. We could only buy in a certain district in town. When I first come to Stockton, Main Street was the dividing line. Everything south of Main Street was owned by blacks. Now over in the other part of town, the north part of town, you couldn't live over there. You couldn't go over there. You go over there. What are you doing over here this time of night, boy? You understand? You couldn't cross the dividing line. Okay? I've stayed over on this side of town. I'd have refused to go over there because the rent's too high. But here's the point. I was renting a house a business place downtown. It's on Market Street. It was owned by Franzia Brothers Winery. You understand? I had a barber shop in there. They never fixed the building up. Rats in it, roaches, everything else. I had my barber shop there. I remember one day we were cutting hair and a big old rat run right across the floor. And Lorenzo, the guy that worked for me, this guy jumped in and said, "Man, there goes a rat." He says, "Oh no, that's a pet rat. Pet rat, we raise them around here." Now, if a rat died, I had to go into the wall, take it out, spray it. This is in the ghetto. Look, I said if I could ever get me a place of my own, I would get it. Look, in the ghetto, they let these guys, these absentee landlords, come in there and get money out of you and don't fix up the places. The health department don't say a damn thing about it. They let it go. I've appeared before the city council numerous of times, not only for that, other things. But they know me who I am. I'm a rabbi, I was say I'm an activist. No, I'm just telling them the truth. Now, the biggest thing that hurts me today, it hurts me every minute of the day. When you turn the corner down there, you saw that big manufacturing company there. Viroplex. They hired some 200 people there. Not a single black worked there. I went there 2 or 3 times. Last time they called the sheriff on me. Because I asked them why they don't have some blacks. They're using public funds to sell schools, portable schools, to the county or to the state, and yet they don't hire any blacks. And I wrote to the city councilmen, I wrote to everybody. I can't get anything done. I'm a World War II veteran. My kids and everybody's fought over there in Vietnam and every place else. And you have this same damn discrimination going on, was 100 years ago, and they're doing it right today. Nobody says nothing about it. And it's, oh, we're going to hire some, or we hired some last month. You understand? I'm just one man. I write to you, McNary, this congressman, yeah, he's not going to do a damn thing. But see, now here's what makes me angry now. They're building jails now for my great-great-grandson. Because with racial profiling and poor people, they cannot house all the people that they're going to build for. These farmers, the grocery men, the clothing stores, and all of these people, they have a ready-made customer. The biggest thing that hurts is the foster care system. What are you talking about? You should take care of these kids. Sure, take care of them. But you got to teach them something. What they're doing is for money. They get a kid, they keep him for 10, 15, 18 years. When that kid gets 18 years old, he's been used to having everything done for him. He doesn't have to work. He is going to get fed. He doesn't have anything to do, but nothing but go to school. If he goes to school, he might be cutting every day. But when he gets 18, they turn him out. He's through. He doesn't have a job. He's going to be a criminal because he's going to live. He might want to sell dope, or he might want to rob, he might want to steal. He doesn't care because he's been used to somebody taking care of him. The girls go to the street. A lot of them turn out for prostitution. Now, here comes the guys that's going to build a private jail. This is the welfare system. The same as in food stamps. Because he's got food stamps coming in, the farmer's selling food, the guy's selling milk and everything else. If I had a deal to sell toilet paper, I'd be a millionaire. It's crazy, isn't it? I'm talking crazy.
No, I think it makes sense. I think it's crazy in that it makes sense to me. I feel like
It is making sense.
Yeah, right.
You spend. I know a guy makes $100,000 a year as a guard at the prison. Lots of them make big money. It's nothing but a business.
Right.
Now, why can't you take this same kid, spend that $31,000 a year on him from birth, put him in a place where he can learn the trade, but technology is going to destroy a lot of jobs, you understand? What are we going to do with these people?
May I ask you one final question?
Yeah.
My final question is, now this is a big question, you can take a moment to think about it if you'd like, but looking back on your life story, and I'm particularly interested in the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, your work in the CCC camp, coming out to California, finding that work, and then being in the Army and going and being and seeing that segregated Army firsthand and some of those experiences during the war. You could look back on those days in your life and tell a young person something about thinking back on that, what do those things mean to you overall? What does that story mean to you in your life?
That story that I'm telling you, what we've been talking about, is the same story that my dad told me years ago. Is a teaching from my father and my mother. It's the hard times that they went through and what they went through. They projected in me the same thing that I'm projecting into my kids. Is don't be dependent on nobody anyone but yourself. Live a good, clean life, and don't worry about the past. Look to the future, because the future is where it is. I've done all this, and I've told my kids my whole life story, and it's in my book. And that piece that you have, that my son wrote, that explains the whole thing in just a few words. He put it all together. The things that I went through as an African American, a white boy couldn't have taken this and still hold himself together like I've held myself together. I'm almost 92 years old, but my mind is keen. It's still keen, very sharp. My health is good. Now, a lot of African Americans, they have adopted the Christian religion, which is nice for them. They have to have something to hold on to. I'm not an atheist, but I look forward to one thing, the universal creator and the teachings of Jesus. If you follow the teachings of Jesus, I'm not talking about the American teaching or the European teaching, it's the teachings that he taught. Love your neighbor, share with each other, don't kill, and do the thing that is good. He never taught anything bad. Now, I have no problems with homosexuality. Why? Because I look at the teachings of Jesus. He said one thing, let the wheat and the chaff grow together, and I'll separate it when I come. That's his job. That isn't mine. So this makes a lot of sense to me. They're human beings. Now, you talk about the different religions we have. We have Christian, we have the Jewish, we have the Muslims, we have all kinds of religion. Now, everyone is looking forward to going to this beautiful place they call heaven. Now, if you take all these people and put them into heaven, what are you going to have up there? All of a sudden you're going to have everybody together? Huh? So the teachings of Jesus, but here's what he said. He says, somebody was over there teaching the same thing he taught. He said, other sheep I have are not of this fold.
Just to finish up, but thinking about how the teachings of Jesus and how those relate to your life, and the big stories that you've...
I've read all the stories in the Bible. I read the Bible real good. But you see, here's what you have to understand. Now, when I was talking to you about my grandson, about the terracotta soldiers, I never explained, but I'm going to explain to you now. Your Bible says that we're 6,000, 7,000, or 8,000 years old, right? The terracotta soldiers are 32,000 years old. You understand? So how does that relate to the Christian Bible, the way they teach? But I'm talking about the way he teaches. Can you explain to me about the Incas and you understand?
Right. A lot of unanswered
But you
questions.
see, here's the way I put religion. I quote some of the things that Jesus said and what they write in there. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. But when I become a man, I put away childish things. That's what my religion is. When I was taught all this garbage, I understood that. Now that I've gotten older, I put away all that childish things. I look to the universal creator, which I know nothing about. You know nothing about. Now here's what I could not understand. Here's when Jesus said, other sheep I have are not of this fold. Here's what I'm getting to now. Do you know they just discovered a new planet? How do we know what's up there? In this movie that you saw, where they had the tails and they're running around, hanging on the vines and everything, and the eagles flying around. What do we know about this? Somebody's looking way ahead. What do we know what's out there? It's hard to understand. But I look to the future. Someday, we will find out, we will know a lot. Now, we want to go to the planets and all that. We haven't even gone down in the ocean deep enough to know what's down there yet. So life is boggling. It's man-boggling, or whatever you want to say about it. But here's the point. As long as you have racial segregation in this world, not only here in the United States, and you have a class system, it's not going to work. Somebody's going to get destroyed in it. And so far as dropping bombs on people and all that, I don't believe in killing. I really don't. Because you're killing somebody that's innocent. Do you realize we killed over 150,000 people in Iraq? They dropped bombs on innocent women and children. Dropped bombs on women and children. Killed a lot of innocent people for nothing. What did we get out of it? Yes, we got something out of it. The guys made millions of dollars.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
The guys that got these contracts,
Right.
it's business.
Yeah.
And just like I'm telling you about the business now of the penitentiary, you spoke about it before I could even tell you what the third largest. You can see it, can't you? So here's what, and don't you think that the people not looking at this, a lot of people think that a lot of people are dumb. They're not dumb. They see what's happening.
Right.
The penitentiary system is it's terrible. And something has got to be done because you're producing a lot of more children today. And what are you going to do with these kids when they get to be 21, 20 years old and they don't have that welfare to be taken care of?
Yeah.
Crime is going to get worse. Now I'll tell you one more thing.
Sure.
I have a niece that's a judge in Chicago. She's retired now. She was a judge there for 30 years. I was telling her the same thing. And she says, I says, you're sending kids to the penitentiary that don't need to be there. I say, look at their background and see what causes them to be there. They wasn't educated. They didn't have a job. They had to live. I said, now, you're a Superior Court judge. She said, Uncle Warren G., you know what? As I look back now, a lot of those kids are not responsible for what they did. You can't hold a person responsible for wanting to eat. And so that's the kind of person I am.
I really appreciate having the chance to interview you today. Thank you so much for sitting down for this. Thank you.
All right.